What is going on, my friends? Welcome to another Brand Doctor podcast episode. Today we have an amazing guest that I met just not too long ago and was actually a co-host on his show. And I said, dude, you got to come on the show. I love your energy. Welcome to the show, everyone. Scott Mulvaney from livethefuel.com. How are we doing today, Scott?
I'm living and loving 2018 to the fullest right now, sir. So I'm excited to be on your show, bro.
I love it. I love it. Listen, I can't thank you again. We rocked out, what was it, last week or the week before on your show.
Maybe 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, for like a straight hour, and we just vibed out. And, man, I cannot wait for that show to produce because you just did a hell of a job putting that together, and I just love the format. And, 2018 is like the year of podcasting. I feel like podcasting is going to explode. We were just talking offline about the podcast movement event in Philadelphia this year, which we're finally going to be able to link up and in person and do some damage there. But for those that are on the show that are listening that do not know Scott Mulvaney and livethefuel.com, I kind of want to know where that came from and why you created it, in the first place.
Well, where to start on that one? Well, real quick, to honor your live guests and my live guests, I'm literally just giving me 2 seconds because I'm sharing your live post right now. Real quick to your followers, I love the fact that you do podcasting and doing it live stream right over Facebook. So I want to honor you and your followers by doing the exact same thing. And boom, that's now posted. So
awesome.
We're carpeing DM right now. So season a day. Live the fuel, man. Wow, I guess if we go far enough back, you and I are both marketing geeks. All right, I love sales, I love marketing, and I took a break from it, and then I went out west. I don't want to fast forward that story too fast. So, long story short, I worked my way up into corporate space, bounced around a couple different companies, telecom, IT, played around in that, and then went back to school on nights and weekends as an adult student, paying my way. Did a marketing and psychology background type of degree, and then come 2010 or end of 2009, I just said, hey man, I need a break. And I wanted to do an adventure, so that's when I went to New York, got certified as a federal wildland firefighter, and then tried getting onto one of those elite hotshot crews that are out west, which luckily I did. Did that in 2010, 2011, got to travel all over the western U.S., no marketing, no business, no corporate space, just serving in the public service. And then I got done with that, and I said, you know what? It's been an amazing 2 years. I got tired of everybody calling me the old guy. FYI, I was only 31, 32. So it's like I wasn't that old. And so I said, all right, I learned a lot from this. I realized I didn't want to do that the rest of my life. And I said, all right, I moved to Colorado, tried putting in the hustle there, man. Oh, my God. Colorado was full of this. It's a beautiful state. I go back every year for skiing, and I miss it, but I just found the spreadsheet the other day. I submitted to over 200 jobs in Colorado, and I have a great corporate history, right? I've got the degree. Then I also did something that less than 1% of the world has even thought about, right? Firefighting. I thought that would be a great resume builder, but no, apparently not, because in 2012, man, I applied to over 200 different jobs. I have the spreadsheet to prove it. And it was hell. It was rough. So great. My outdoor lifestyle was awesome. I was fired up. I'm giving you some keywords that led to Live the Fuel here. And then a great friend of mine, Jennifer, shout out to Jennifer Flodine of physics.com, Fysiks, because she's awesome. And she's my biggest client. And she brought me back to the East and said, hey, Scott, I need your help. I'm growing a new company. So I came back to the East Coast. But during that time, I've always had that side hustle, the entrepreneurial spirit, everything else. And me being a skier and a mountain biker and a rock climber and a skydiver and all this other crazy stuff, there's always these key words getting thrown around, like fired up and epic. And my fiance will even say I probably say it a little too much. So I sat down one day and I said, all right, I took a whole bunch of Post-its, I threw them up on a wall, and I just started writing keywords down, all the words that mean something to me. And then fast forward that, and I came up with a statement that was inspired by Ernest Hemingway, which was, I always used his quote of, live life to the fullest, because life is short. And I said, okay, well, what if I created my own tagline? So those key words, I ended up getting thrown together and creating Live the Fired Up Epic Life, which Fired Up Epic Life is your acronym FUEL, transpired into livethefuel.com. So that's where the name, the title came from. And a lot of that started in the beginning for me just saying, hey, on the side, I'm going to start a Facebook page. And I'm going to start posting like motivational, inspirational quotes and comments because that's what fuels my fire, right? That's what keeps me going because it's all about mindset. And I've been obsessed with self-development, personal and professional development. And that's what's been going on for the past 4 years. I mean, fast forward to today, Live the Fuel has now become a little bit more of a marketing agency and consulting and brand development. And I have my own podcast show, obviously, that you'll be airing this Friday, by the way.
Nice.
Yeah, does that give you a little bit of a short skinny on it?
That's awesome. Yeah, no, that's awesome. That definitely gives the audience a little bit of a background on you and where everything came to fruition. Now, I usually ask this question a lot to all of my guests because it evokes emotion. And we all know branding is that gut feeling you get, it should be, right? And so it's like, I really want to get to the bottom of what really fuels Scott Mulvaney when it comes to the biggest pet peeve he's got with the industry that he serves. So, there's tons of stuff out there that really grinds my gears. And if you follow me, and watch my lives and watch my videos, you'll know real quick what pisses me off, what I love, what I hate. And so my question is, what's going on right now that's really grinding your gears? And what are you so passionate about? What are you trying to just stop in 2018?
Let me rephrase what you just asked, I guess. The word stop, right? That is, for some people, can be very abrasive, very abrupt. It might freak some people out, like stopping to do something in their lives, right? Like I'm a huge health and fitness nut, right? I'm a CFL1 CrossFit coach. I've been a ski race coach. Like I'm not just a business guy. Like I truly believe in part of Live the Fuel, right, is balancing and entwining health and business and fitness and everything else. Because where do you think this energy comes from, man? It's staying healthy. So when people say, oh, I want to stop this, I want to stop that, psychologically, that can actually impact a lot of people. And they're like, whoa, that's going to push them away, right? Like, I don't want to stop eating potato chips.
I said stomp.
Stomp, even more. Well, okay, then I'm going to rephrase that again. Stomping, love that. Some people might get freaked out by that. I'm going to stomp on your business. But it's interesting on that point then, because stomping out things in 2018 – all right, I'll jump right into it. I do not like fake people.
That's it. That's what I'm looking for.
It drives me freaking nuts. Maybe not everybody agrees with me. Like I've had people in the past month. One of my YouTube videos started going a little viral from a podcast from a doctor that I had on the show. We were talking a lot about coconut oil and stuff like that. And people who follow podcasting, it's audio. They don't follow video. So I'm one of these rare guys that's pushing video like you're doing today. And there's people who probably never even found my show before and all of a sudden now saw the video. And there's people commenting and they're like, who is this guy? And why can't he let the doctor talk more? He should be interviewing him more. And I'm like, dude, that's not my podcast. So I'm literally now commenting on these people saying, this is who I am. This is my show. If you would have taken 5 seconds to just go visit the website or just read the bio on the YouTube channel, you would understand what you were watching, okay? But everybody's impatient, and literally I got people writing the F-bomb and saying shit and all kinds of other stuff about now I've had other people saying they love the episode. So the great thing is now there's people writing back to each other, and I don't have to say anything anymore. But it's guys, in the end, this is me. This is my show, and I'm not going to fake who I am to make people happy and follow me, okay? I know that in marketing, you're not going to attract everybody. You're not going to draw in everybody. You need to define who you are, what you stand for, what you're trying to magnetize, so to speak, and draw to you, to your business, to your brand, whatever it may be. And everybody else who doesn't get it, who cares, right? I mean, I don't know if you're feeling some of that energy, but I can't stand it. People are out there. All of a sudden, I watch one video, and they're saying one thing, and then another video comes out a month later, and it's exactly opposite of what they said. And I'm like, what the hell? Do you stand for something?
It's this wishy-washy bullshit that I can't stand. I talked about that today in one of my lives where I said, I don't know if you know who Rick Rubin is, the music producer, the burly music producer that you would never think in a million years a music producer, the way he looks and the way he presents himself and positions himself. But he said the best art is the art that divides the audience. And I'll never forget that, for the rest of my life. The best art divides the audience. And this is what you're talking about right now.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people, let's be real, all right? Money is something prevalent in our society, especially here in the good old United States of America. And this is something that I've struggled with. I have no problem being transparent about this. Like, I've not always been great with money. And let's be real. When I was in the corporate life, I was chasing the money. Mm-hmm. I was, I want happy what I got. Let's shoot for the next promotion, or let's shoot for that next best company. And like the grass is always greener. And I feel like a lot of people are doing that with their own brands and their own companies, or maybe their own personal online profiles, right? And it's like, guys, just be yourself. Mm-hmm. And not anyone's going to love you. It's cool. Just let it go. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I would love to see stomped out, because when you stop trying to fake it, here's something that really drives me nuts. I would like to hear your feedback on this. There's that statement of fake it till you make it. And I think you and I might have talked about this on our show too. And there's two schools of thought on that. There's fake it till you make it, meaning, hey man, sometimes you got to just over deliver. And especially if you're launching a new business or launching a new brand or a new product. But it doesn't mean you let go of your ethics and who you are and what you stand for. You don't fake that. But sometimes you might need to I've seen people embellish a little bit. But in the end, don't fake who you are because it'll come back on you. It always comes back on you. And that's the thing that drives me nuts too, is like people just want to say, oh man, I know that if I just fake it now and I promise this, hopefully I can pull it off. And I'll worry about the ethics stuff later, the ethical impacts to who I am. And that's what people don't understand, is that every brand you launch, every business you launch, if it's you, how are you not putting your best self forward? Because that's going to reflect in all of your brands, all your companies. And if you start faking it, well, that's going to reflect in your brands and your companies. I mean, what's your feeling on that?
So I truly believe the fake it till you make it is going to backfire eventually, for the simple fact that people can smell the bullshit from a mile away. I mean, people are going to know what fluff content is and what content that's really profound and really prolific, in a sense where it's original, in the sense where, listen, I pull from different experts all the time. Like, I'm inspired by Tony Robbins, by Gary Vee, by Simon Sinek. I pull all these people in, but then what I do is when I talk about it, I put my spin on it. I put my 2 cents into it. And that's what makes it unique, right? Because there's only one me, right? But at the end of the day, people are going to determine whether or not you're a subject expert. Not you. Not you.
Well said.
And so this is why every morning I have a ritual of mastering my craft. I have to wake up and watch 30 minutes of one of my branding mentors so that I can get, because he's 15 chapters ahead of me, right? So it's always fun to chase him. I mean, I get excited over stuff like that, right? But some of the things that he does are so much in line with what I believe, and that's why we get along. That's why I'm following him. But am I trying to be him or emulate him? Absolutely not. Why? Because that's when you run into problems. I mean, let's take this back to when we were high school kids, elementary kids. when we tried to emulate the popular kid in class or the popular kid in school. We got laughed at. Yeah, we got laughed at. We got with the finger pointed at us like, stop doing that. You're a dork. You're a wannabe.
Yeah,
right?
There you go. The wannabes, right? Everybody knew who the wannabes were. It's funny because, like, the beauty of childhood innocence, like, some people saw that as bullying. And I'm like, well, if you really broke it down, what you just said there was kids don't know any better yet. So in that level of innocence, before they're adults like us, and we've been impacted by so many people and so many experiences over the years, like, wow, look at that. The kids right off the bat know if you're trying to be a wannabe or not, and they usually got made fun of. So interesting.
They're just calling a spade a spade.
That's it. Yeah.
That's it.
And it's funny because a lot of us like don't really think about that. I love the fact you brought it back to that because it's like it's that simple, man. Kids are so impressionable back then. So if they're noticing stuff like that, maybe we need to go back to our childhood and start reflecting forward and backward here and saying, okay, well, what are we doing in our adulthood? Are we kind of going back to the schoolyard? Are we doing the wannabe thing?
You know what's crazy? I'm gonna bring you back to when I was about 10 years old in about 6th grade. Because I hired a mindset coach. I have 3 coaches in my life. I have a biz dev coach, I have a sales coach, and I have a mindset coach. I think those are the 3 big pillars in business and
I would agree.
To help you take your business to the next level.
I only got one coach, man. You're hustling.
Yeah. So I'm in a session with my mindset coach, and we're talking about why I have this need for feeling significant to my audience, right? And so she brings me back to when I was 10 years old, and I'm standing on the schoolyard, in the middle of the schoolyard. Now imagine this. I have my eyes closed, and I'm in the middle of the schoolyard, and all the popular kids are all hanging out with each other, and there's just me standing by myself in the middle of the schoolyard like I was invisible, right? And I'll never forget it. You know, I always I shouldn't say always, but I always felt the need for attention because I was sort of singled out in middle school and in grammar school. Like, nobody wanted to hang with Henry because Henry was the guy that had the ring of dirt around his collar because his mom never kept a good load of laundry. And it was a sad time for me. And I was 10 years old. I didn't know any better. So
I didn't have the dirty collar, but I was a farm boy. So you're picking up what I'm dropping. So anyway, I'm sitting there and I'm saying to myself, why isn't anybody talking? Do I smell? Like, you know, like what's going on? And I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you because I get it, man.
So she brings me back to this part of my life, and I'm sitting there, and she was like, all right, Henry, you can't do anything to help 10-year-old Henry. You just have to stand there and observe. And it was driving me absolutely insane because I wanted to help him. I wanted to do something with him. I wanted to get him out of that situation. But what she helped me understand was this. Every time 10-year-old Henry tried to be part of the cool club, he got rejected. Why? Because he wasn't cool. And what happened?
Or that domain of cool, because there's different domains of cool.
Right. So what we pulled out of this, let me get to the point, was when Henry identified himself as a little unique kid with his own little story, with his own little sense of superpower, with his own little sense of self, that's when the popular kids started to include him into things. You know, when everybody else was playing with Star Wars and I was playing with G.I. Joe.
Well, good decision, by the way. Good decision.
People were like, well, why is he playing with G.I. Joe? I'm curious.
Because he's the real American hero.
Whatever you want to call it, Scott. But
that was the tagline from that back then, man.
Right. But the point is, the more you try, the more you die. Right? And the way that I'm trying to explain this is when you just try to be yourself, that's when the attention gets drawn to you.
But let's be real. I mean, by the way, great reflections of childhood. I love the honesty and the transparency. Going back to us being genuine, right? And I think a lot of people were constantly struggling with this. I'm sure your mindset coach brought this up. Heck, I'm sure your business coach brings this up all the time. Like, it's very easy to start getting pushed off target, which is why you have coaches, right? This is why coaches exist. This is why all good coaches have a coach, by the way, because everybody needs to keep leveling up. And I want to kind of rewind back to something you tagged at earlier, and we talked about this on your podcast that's going to be airing on Friday, is we're all at a different place on the timeline. And I think that's the biggest struggle that I found in the past few months. I've been bringing this up more and more on my podcast, is like, guys, like, realize where you're at in the timeline, and then just look at, if you want to call them your heroes or your mentors or those people like you mentioned, Gary Vee, Tony Robbins. The only difference between those human beings and you as a fellow human being is that they did stuff a little bit differently and maybe earlier on the timeline. So if you're trying to get to that same place, number one, you got to be patient. Number two, yeah, you got to put in the hustle. We all talk about that. Gary Vee's all about the hustle, go, go, go. But in the end, you just have to realize that, okay, they've just been doing a few other things more than you, maybe earlier on, and you just got to catch up. Be patient, catch up. You'll get to that spot on the timeline. You may not ever catch up completely to exactly where Tony is right here, right now. With Tony Robbins, for example. It's like you and me. Like, you're in a different place on your timeline than I am. But if there's some marketing stuff that I can learn from you, cool. That might bump me a little bit, and vice versa, right? So there's one main life timeline, but I also like to look at it as how many other sub levels of timelines are actually like flowing right underneath of it. It makes me think of, I don't know why this popped in my head. Have you seen all the Ghostbusters movies?
Yeah.
Remember the one with the pink slime?
Yeah.
Right? So when you go to New York City and you see like Broadway or Avenue of the Americas, 6th Avenue, you just see this big fat, artery of street. There's people, there's cars flowing. But then when I think about that, that's your life's timeline, right? There's just stuff's happening so fast. Though what you don't realize is that underneath, again, just makes me think of that movie. Like, hey, there's probably a couple of subterranean rivers or flow states happening underneath of that are also happening at the same time, maybe a little bit slower. So that's why I'm going back here. Like, you and I were geeking out before we started today about tripods and gear for video work, right? So that's just one other little angle, within your marketing business. Like, hey, there's video, there's social media, there's podcasting, there's all these things happening that fuel the same primary timeline. It's just there's other components. Like, I might be further along in the podcasting timeline than maybe you are, but you are further along maybe in video and social media than I am. I don't know. Like, I'm just saying, like, that's something I've been really cracking my head around a lot lately too, is like recognizing that everything's a timeline and there's also supporting timelines within that. So I don't know if you ever thought about stuff that way.
Yeah, I did. And what drives me is finding that person, that epic person. I talked about this earlier. Like, if you want to be great, you have to follow great. You have to model great. Don't model the marketing agency down the street.
No.
Right? Market the Madison Ave marketing agency, right? Like, I think big. I always have these I talked about this on a podcast previously. I have these crazy dreams constantly about planes crashing. I never see the plane crash, but I always see it diving down to the ground. And so I got, after the fifth time of just
that probably means something psychologically.
It does. And guess what it does? It means that I set unrealistic goals. I've read it 1,000 times on many different platforms. And it made me think, like, do I set my goals so high that they're so unrealistic that I'll never achieve them? And is that going to hurt me or strengthen me? And it was so funny because I had Evan Carmichael, big YouTube guy, over 1 million subscribers, on the show last week. And he says, dude, I always set goals that I know I'll never be able to achieve in a lifetime, because it sets me up to know that failure is okay. And it actually drives me even harder to go after that goal, believe it or not. So it's just like one of those push-pull types of things that just come over you, these feelings that come over you. And so I was thinking about that, and I go, That's why I'm having all these dreams, because I set the bar so damn high. And I've always done this. One of my very wealthy uncles, he says to me, I said, what's the key to success, Uncle Joe? Like, I just want to know, because you've been in the game 40 plus years and have a $250 million business.
There you go. Respect your elders.
Yeah. He said, dude, I set a goal and I do it and get it done. And when I get it done, it's setting the next goal just a little bit higher.
There you go.
And he told me that when I was like 20, 21 years old. And I'll never forget it.
Yeah, but you weren't ready to really understand it then.
No, but it always drove me to set that bar so high that get out of your comfort zone. Just do it. Just do it, because you never know what you're capable of. And then we get into visualization, right? I think that is such a huge tool that's so undervalued, underused, and people sleep on it all the time. I swear to God, Scott, everything that I have in my life today, I actually visualized it. I actually saw it like it was real.
Well, let's pause on that. I mean, can you give one example of how you visualized it? Was this something like, I mean, how many people talk about vision boards and stuff like that? Like, did you physically do something to visualize it, or did you go through those mental exercises where you sit down and you actually make yourself really mentally focused for, let's say, 30, 60 seconds on this one thing? Like, do you have an example of that?
Yes. And it's nothing that's brain science. I literally, physically,
there it is. Pen and paper.
Wrote it down. I'm with
you, brother.
And then I closed my eyes and I pictured this house that I live in today. It's my dream home. And I said, I'm going to have a house one day that is going to be big enough that I feel safe, big enough that is going to make my family feel comfortable, and big enough to make me feel that I've accomplished something in my life. And within a year, we moved into this house. And same thing with my cars. I'm a big car buff. I love cars. I have a Range Rover. I have an S-Class. Like, I love cars.
Yeah.
And my cousins make fun of me all the time. What car do you have this week? And it's so funny. But my father drove a shitbox pickup truck my entire life, and he still has it today parked in the front of the house. And
I love that.
Every time I go to visit him, I see that truck, and it makes me remember the day when I was 16 years old, and I said, when I'm able to afford a nice vehicle, I will have a nice vehicle until the day I can't have nice vehicles anymore.
Oh, you were setting goals.
And that's it.
That was something that meant something to you. Like, and that's I'm glad you're bringing that up. Let's be real. Just because you like nice cars doesn't mean anybody following this means that they have to like a nice car, right? All you're reflecting on here is goal setting.
Exactly.
For you wanted to have a nice truck, a nice car, whatever. And that happens a lot in this country. But maybe other people say, you know what? Like, for example, my old vision board, I finally took it down because I'm redoing the office. And I had a picture of a log cabin. And I didn't actually really confirm the location, which actually was reason why I'm glad I took it down, because I'm like, great, this makes me actually work better on my visionary work, right? Because I would pick a location there you want it. And the whole point is that we're huge skiers. So my master plan in the next 10, 20 years, whatever it's going to take is, hey, I want to make sure I have another vacation home somewhere else out west, right? Because I want to make sure, like, my fiance's family, they've got a place in Edwards, Colorado, right by Vail. So great, I don't have to worry about that area, right? Because I already got access to a house there. Let's find another cool spot, like maybe Utah, maybe Nevada. But the point is, like, okay, I could care less if I got a shiny, fancy car or not, because for me, it's travel. So it doesn't matter what it is. It's setting the goals, man, and set them high.
Exactly. And everything means something different to other people. Like, I just happen to like stuff. And my wife always kids around. She's like, you're the fancy one in the relationship. And I said, I am who I am. I'm not going to be something different.
Oh, dude, I'm with you, man. I'm a gear whore. So I use that term all the time. I mean, because I ski, I mountain bike, I'm a road cyclist. So when it comes to sports, yeah. I have a separate insurance policy just in my athletic gear.
dude, I know someone who's very, very successful in the branding world who took a business from 0 to 1 billion in a year. He's in the vape industry.
Oh yeah.
And he collects precious stone. We had a 30-minute conversation about a $50,000 rock that he bought. And
is there like a rock auction? I mean,
there's this little tiny place in New York City that he goes frequently and buys these precious stones. And it's like a hole in the wall joint that you would never hear of in a million years. But I'm not making fun of him because he buys these crazy expensive rocks. You know what I mean? And
he built a $1 billion business. If that's what makes him happy, do it.
Dude. And he lives on this estate out in Michigan, big farm. He went and bought a tractor. He's showing me his tractor he bought. And I'm saying to myself, dude, this is awesome. Do what
makes you happy.
Do what makes you happy. Give yourself rewards. You know what I mean? That's what I'm going to start doing more of in 2018. When I accomplish something, right, I want to reward myself. And whatever that is, maybe taking my family on a mini vacation, doing something that is going to provide contribution. I had an interesting thought the other day, and it got me on the phone with the Make-A-Wish Foundation yesterday.
I'm a huge supporter of them.
Yeah, because I went to an event 5-6 years ago, and I had this knot in my throat, Scott, like the entire 2 hours because they had me in tears.
Oh, did they have somebody speaking or?
Well, they honored the cake boss, and they did all this cool stuff. They had these montage videos, like constantly going of these kids.
I swear to God, I think whoever's in their marketing department, they know how to pull out the biggest tear-jerking, like knot in the throat as you pointed it out. Like, I love it. I mean, it's like if you don't get choked up at one of their events, you might not be human.
That's right. Exactly. And so I said to so I wanted to figure out how. So they have these things where you could grant wishes to people and to children, to critically ill children. And I wanted to learn more about how I could grant a wish. So she was explaining to me how this works. So they make it real simple. It's 10 G's or 15 G's. And that's your donation.
If you want to do your own. Yeah, actually, I think the last event I went to, because I mean, one of my side businesses, I have a nutrition business, and their flagship partner for people who care about not-for-profit is Make-A-Wish. Oh. So every time I go to one of their big like corporate events, they always have somebody there from Make-A-Wish. They bring in a kid. Kid goes up on stage and tells them why they love Make-A-Wish and how your money impacts them. And then we do like live in the audience, real-time crowdfunding, basically. And it's just like, hey, guys, you don't have to donate, but if you want to, let's see how much we could raise right here, right now, and potentially grant a wish. And that's the first time I went to one of those is when I learned about the whole 15K is like that magic threshold for like a proper, Disney vacation or whatever they give these kids, right, for their dreams. Right. It's so powerful.
Yeah. And so she was telling me, so I thought if you make the donation that it takes like, a year to get that wish granted, right? Mm-hmm. It's actually not the case because these kids are so critically ill. Yeah. God forbid, they could die tomorrow and everything changes, right? They actually grant the wish within 30 days of the donation.
That's pretty good. I didn't know that, actually. You just taught me something. So I've been supporting them since 2010. So that's pretty cool, man.
It's fat. So a bomb went off in my head. And because I said, you know what? I want to grant one wish this year to one of those kids. Like, that's what I'm working for this year. And then when she says they do it in 30 days, I said to myself, how many wishes can I grant this year?
Wow. See, that just changed your entire mindset. Like, whoa, wait a minute. Now it's just not about one. It's like, if I gain 2 new clients, or I help my clients level their brands up, within 30, 60, 90 days, 6 months, et cetera, like income wise, what can I align with that growth? I like that.
It was great. It was great. And I don't know if you and I were talking about this, but there's an event out in Vegas called Thrive.
That was me.
Yeah. And they talk about how thousands of entrepreneurs go to this event each year. And basically it's an event to help you find a purpose for your business. It's this. And man,
what we talked about, FYI, as of January 1st this year, my business, I've officially moved it with my accountant over to a for-purpose business model. So that means going forward, any new income. In the beginning, I have to figure this out, so this is all new. But I already donate every so often. Like I'm not dropping 10, 15K. But I wanted to say, well, great, how a for-purpose business model is everybody's choice. But it's like, okay, you can then just say, listen, I want to give 0.5% of any income generated into anything, right? You basically use up a separate account if you want to do it that way. And then every dollar coming into your business, you take out a percentage for taxes and operational costs. So why not have a for-purpose account?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I decided. I mean, I've gone to the last 2 years of Thrive, Make Money Matter, and I said, that's it. For 2018, I'm going to flip that switch. So now Live the Fuel and my LLC, Fuel Enterprises, is now a for-purpose business model, meaning all income generated that I bring in, I'm actually going to be setting aside 1% for now. I'm looking, and my new timeline goal is, what could I increase that to, right? Or because it's percentage-based, as long as income increases, that means that percentage increases. And maybe the first year it's only a couple $100 or a few grand, but it's like it's now hard-coded into my business protocols. And the mindset flip on that is amazing.
It's
and
huge.
Hell, let's tie it back to branding. Like I can now say, I feel good. Like I've always said, I do this donation, that donation, but now I'm literally setting aside hard coding the dollars. Mm-hmm. So that is exactly what they're going to be doing. I will always have a certain percentage of money going into an account. And then when I feel like picking a new charity to support, there's already money sitting there. Mm-hmm. So now there's no excuses, right? How cool is that?
It's awesome. And again, it's this driving force, right? And when I onboard clients, whether it's the Branding on Demand program or the Brand Accelerator program, my first question is, why are you hiring me? Why are you creating this business in the first place? And that's before they even come into the program, is because if those values don't align with me, I'm not going to be of any help to them. And if there isn't a purpose behind what it is that they're doing, I don't know if I'm going to be as powerful as they think I'm going to be for them. And that's how I determine who it is that I work with and who I don't work with. And that's how you have a roster full of awesome clients is you realize that when you align your values to the people that you work with, mm-hmm. it's not work anymore.
Yeah.
Now, it's a common purpose that is trying to make, whether it's trying to make this world a better place, whether it's trying to again help a charity do whatever it is that they need to do to get to where they want to be. But man, ever since I had my son, I just look at life so much differently.
It's cool, right?
It's just amazing.
It's like a chemical. It's like a switch of a chemical or a hormonal switch. Well, for you, it being a father. For me, it's just I'm not a father, so it's like just going to events and surrounding yourself, like you said earlier in this show, right? I'm changing the people I'm surrounding myself with. I'm changing the books that I'm reading, the videos I'm watching. You got to put in the reps. Like the way I think today is not the way I thought just 3 years ago, right? It took repetition. Or in your case, it took, creating a new human being and then helping open up like, hey man, this is bigger than myself.
And so you don't have to have a child to have that switch.
No,
right?
A great example.
Yeah, but it's finding that one thing, when Russell Brunson introduced me to Tony Robbins, right? Yep. I didn't know who Tony Robbins was. I thought I thought he was this like preacher type of dude.
See, we didn't talk about that a couple weeks ago. You told me that Russell had introduced you, but you didn't bring that part up. Like how crazy is it? Like you and I nowadays, we're just like, man, you've never heard of Tony Robbins? But I literally had that conversation at least once a month. Like there's people who don't know who Tony Robbins is, especially the millennial generation. And I'm like, man, you guys are missing out, man. Like this guy is good.
I thought he was one of those preacher guys that come on come on television at like midnight on Sundays. I mean,
I'm gonna do a little visual plug for my boys at Thrive.
There you go. That's a sharp looking hat.
Well, come to Thrive. I already have my ticket for this year, so I pre-buy the ticket every year.
Dude, if there's 2 events that I'm going to, it'll be Podcast Movement and it'll be this Thrive event.
There you go.
And so.
And the beauty of this type of event is like just like you and I are talking about right now. It's that bigger picture discussion that we're having, right? Like, yeah, I mean, you and I are getting together thanks to connecting over podcasting of all things. And there's still people out there who don't even know what the frick a podcast is. But okay, well, what if just you and I having a conversation could benefit others and get them to think about doing charity work more? It doesn't have to be money, by the way. Let me add that in, guys. I've done stuff for Habitat for Humanity. I mean, my first charity experience was years ago, thanks to a friend of mine who owned a bar, restaurant, and her father-in-law had passed away of pancreatic cancer, and she started a cancer vaccine. She started a cancer charity locally here to raise money for cancer vaccine research. Shout out to Dr. Lee Riley here locally here in Pennsylvania, who works for St. Luke's Hospital. And our charity back then was called Green Hope Charities. And that was my first thing. And then it spun off like years later, right? Like doing stuff for Habitat, or like you and I are talking about right now is finding these events like Thrive and finding a way to build purpose into our lives in different ways. Oh, yeah, and in the end, by the way, we're still trying to grow businesses and help other people's businesses grow and branding and everything else, but it all can tie together. And I think a lot of people don't realize that.
It doesn't. They don't. People don't realize that. And it was funny. I was watching a TED Talk from 2006 where Tony Robbins is on stage, and he's just rocking, right? And he was so not polished like he is now, but he slips this one little one-liner in that I'll never forget. He said, "The secret to living is giving." And I was like, man, I think about some of my happiest moments in life, and it really had, I could get choked up right now just talking and thinking about this, but it really had nothing to do with me. It was the time I did X for someone else, or it was something that it could have been a simple DM from a Instagram follower that told me, because of you, you've helped me believe in my brand and believe in myself, and now I do these daily videos that are impacting people. Like,
dude, when I launched the podcast, it's funny you're bringing this up. As soon as you said this, it made me think of him. So, knowing him, he's probably watching this feed right now. There's a buddy of mine locally here, and I'm going to shout out to him, Brian Strausser of the Strausser Project. He's like, I call him Super Dad. He's like you, man. Like, his kids are everything. And he and I connected. I forget now, but basically it's been so much back and forth. Like, I've had him on the podcast. The guy has been rebuilding his life. Like, he used to be a personal trainer years ago and then put on weight and then started, he was big in the mountain biking circuit, which I'm a big fan of and a part of as well. So he and I connected through doing volunteer trail work here at a local park, because I call it my park, but it's not my park. But like, I've gone in there with chainsaws, man, and cleaned up storm damage, and we built trails. And this year we ran a 400-kid race there from little racer kids from all over the state of Pennsylvania. But we met through charity work, doing trail work. Then we sit down and I end up bringing him on the podcast. We talk about all kinds of things that he's gone through in his life, and then now every once in a while, like if I have something going on, or I come back from an event and I have like a new inspirational book or quotes or a little support tool, I'm like, I'll just randomly drive by his house and just drop it off on his truck or on his front porch. But then usually he'll post a photo of it like, Scott Mulvaney strikes again. But it's because it's not about me, though. Like, it's because when I see things like that, but he's one of those guys, or when I first brought him on the podcast, this is a year ago now, and he made a post online about that. Just like you said, the DMs, the direct messages. And he's like, but he made it to the public just saying, hey, FYI, man, like, thank you. Like, this means a lot. Yeah. And it doesn't – I think that reminds me to remind people right watching this right now is like you don't have to do a lot, right? It could be just a simple act. And if you can create that ripple effect, like I wanted to do something positive for him. he in turn does something positive for others. Like, that's all we need to be doing in this freaking world is like do a couple of positive things. And we want to hope for the best, and we want to create these positive ripples because not everybody has the perfect life. And a lot of people are struggling, whether it be their business or their brand or marketing, or in this case, we're just talking about being a human being in general, man. I'm sure you can easily give feedback on that.
100%. And one of the things that really shifted my business out of the toilet back in 2013 and 14, and some of you guys may have heard me talk about this before, but when I was working with a mindset coach back then and kind of sharing with him my thoughts, and he's taking notes, and he stopped me and he said, Henry, there's no reason, it's no surprise your business is in the shitter. He said, look at the energy that you've been putting out the past few years. It's all self-centered. It's all about you. You truly don't give a shit about people. All you do is care about yourself. And it's clear just the way you're talking. That's why you're getting what you're getting. So for somebody to slap me in the face.
Think of the law of attraction. I don't know if you follow any of that stuff, but you know,
dude,
some people say it's hokey, but I'm like, well, there's some validity because I've seen it a few times.
It'll make the hair on my arms stand when I tell you, the minute I stopped being so selfish and I started thinking more about my wife, started thinking more about the people that truly love me, like my family members and true friends that I've had for long
the ones who
time.
stood there with you.
Yes. And started to really say, dude, this isn't about me anymore. It's about truly helping people, truly just getting over myself. And it was just it was a new lease on life, Scott. I don't know how else to explain it. And the past 5 years, it's going on 5 years. I don't even know. It's so fast, but it's been a complete game changer. I have the best clients in the world. I have the best family in the world. I've truly feel like I've come into myself and just feel comfortable in my own skin. And I don't know if I ever felt that before in my entire life.
Well, the sad part is a lot of us don't realize that, right? Because until that actually happens, now you can talk to it and we can reflect on the positive change that came from that. But what if you never would have picked up on that? We'd be on that. Like, how many people say, oh man, I need to find more purpose in life. I was one of them. Like, why do you think I went to do the firefighting thing? Like, I did not like where I was in my life. I didn't know what the hell I was going to freaking do. So me being the adrenaline junkie and extreme guy, I'm like, great, I'm going to go become a firefighter. And I was like, because I told myself, like, what if that's what I'm meant to do? And it's giving back to mankind and yada, yada, yada. But admittedly, when I first went, I think there was a good chunk of me that was mostly more self-centered and just trying to find something for me. But obviously, thanks to that job, thanks to the people, the guys I got to risk my life with and work with, and like they helped me, I think, improve my life because it wasn't about me anymore, right? Like, dude, you're on the fire line. It was my brothers, right? Like we all had to look out for each other. So over those 2 years, it really transformed me. And a lot of people that I know to this day, they're always like, man, you still talk a lot about the firefighting thing. And I'm like, yeah, because it changed my life. And I don't ever want to forget about that. And I want people to maybe hear some of those stories and realize that you don't have to become a firefighter. You don't have to become an entrepreneur to make these changes. And like you can find happiness in your job and in your career. You just got to start building, like you just made a point here. Start reflecting on things bigger than yourself. Make an impact on those around you that have always had your back over the years. That's what I'm hearing from you.
That's it. And that's it. So we got to tie this up. Dude, I could talk to you for hours.
I know, man, dude.
So we got to wrap this up.
This happened last time.
I know. It's crazy. So,
but it's okay. In the marketing world, the longer videos are actually pretty popular right now. So there you go.
They are. I mean, the viewership on this Facebook Live, I can't wait to see it once we finish it up. But here's my question for you. Out of everything we spoke about today, what do you think the headline should be, for this episode?
It's funny because like your podcast is the brand doctor, but we didn't actually verbatim, we didn't always, we name dropped the word brand a few times. And obviously we're both marketing guys. But I actually feel that we got a lot more surgical. I'm going to dig into that doctor thing here and throw out some keywords. But I feel like you got much more surgical into what's going on from within a brand, right? And what is the bigger purpose behind everything we're trying to do? Like, are you trying to build a brand from just financials? Because there's plenty of companies doing that out there. There's plenty of people trying to do it out there. I think this is the bigger picture, right? What are we looking at from the bigger picture? What is the real meaning behind what we're trying to do? Maybe it's something along the lines of like the bigger picture behind a brand, or how you build a brand of purpose, right? There's the key word, purpose, right? Or a for-purpose brand. I don't know.
Yeah. What's the bigger purpose behind your brand?
Yeah. Because the end, like, dude, when you have those bad times in business where maybe your income's a little low, if you're giving out the right vibe and you've been spending all this time making the right connections and helping people over the past couple of years, I truly believe nowadays that we will eventually attract the right business and the right customers and the right growth. So I think people need to be much more self-conscious and realize that, hey, man, am I doing everything the right way? Do I feel good about what I'm doing? Because when push comes to shove or when shit hits the fan, you should feel confident about what you've been doing, and you should not have regret. I think that's something key out of all this too, is everything we and I talked about today is like, do you have regret? That's underlying in your brand? Because I don't think regret should ever be allowed into your life, right? People spend too much time thinking about the past, reflecting about what they screwed up, what they did. First of all, you and I have talked about this too. It's like mistakes need to be made. That's how we learn. That's how we grow. That's how we know not to do that next time. It's basic human psychology. It's like when you were a kid, you touched something that was hot and you burn your hand. Hello, you probably didn't do that ever again. If you did, there might be something mentally wrong with you. But
yeah, it's the truth.
But it's like that's what we need to be doing, man. Like, feel good about everything that you've done. Feel good about your business. Feel good about who you are, and don't have regrets. If you made mistakes, it's okay, man. Embrace them and own them, because that's what's making you a better person down the road, so you don't do that again. And then maybe people like you or me and others with our podcast could teach others the same thing, right? Like you and I talked about today, going back to that for purpose for the branding. It's like, hey, man, Make-A-Wish or Thrive Make Money Matter or any of these other organizations. It's like, find some purpose in what you're doing, and your brand will thrive. I truly believe that.
Dude, we'll leave it at that, my friend. Real quick, for those that want to learn more about Scott Mulvaney and Live the Fuel, where could they go and check you out?
Yeah, man, livethefuel.com, and obviously in social media, it's just at Live the Fuel. I'm everywhere. So
Awesome. Scott, I appreciate the time today. I appreciate the insight. Dude, I love chatting with you. I'm looking forward to the Thrive event. I'm looking forward to the Podcast Movement event. And definitely chilling with you in person and make it.
Well, we'll have to kick up a little bit sooner than that. I mean, Podcast Movement's not till July, and then you're in Jersey and I'm in Pennsylvania. I mean, we're not that far apart, so we'll have to we got to connect up before then. So it's 2018. It's a year of action, man.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up. So, guys, thank you again for paying attention to the Brand Doctor podcast. Some real quick housekeeping. If you haven't shared this podcast with a friend or a colleague and you think it would help them, please do that. And if you haven't yet signed up and joined the Brand Doctors Hangout on Facebook, go ahead and do that right now. There's folks like Scott, and there's a couple hundred entrepreneurs in this group now that are all helping each other take their brands and their businesses to the next level. And so I encourage you to come over and hang out with us there.